Now that you've done your homework, you've seen that some signs approach iconic expression, are almost gestural, yet they're different from gestures. The signers seem faster, more skilled, and more efficient, using less signs, while the gesturers took a longer time, were slow in their movements, and had to use many gestures. This is one way of distinguishing them, even though on the surface they may look similar and are both iconic. This presents another challenge, because non-signing researchers use judgment based on introspection. I'll talk more about that next. Subjective introspection means to use your own views to do things like observe and compare phenomena, or reason and come to conclusions. The subjective aspect means that you have not removed yourself from the situation in order to make a plan for investigation without involving your own intuitions. That would be objective. But here, when making observations, one relies on subjective introspection to process visual information in which you naturally look for meaning and develop expectations, which will influence what you actually see. Now, in the early 20th century, a prominent thinker named Wilhelm Wundt, now widely regarded as the father of psychology, asserted that when processing information, we rely on subjective introspection to determine meaning. He trained many others to use this approach as well. Based on his own introspection and using what he had, which was gesture, he didn't know sign language, he concluded that what this meant for sign language was that listeners would rely on the resemblance of signs to items in the real world, both in form and meaning. He expected that signs would be modified to represent their real-world counterparts as closely as possible, imitating both shape and action. Thus, Wundt, as a person who did not sign, presented another challenge for researchers. They would have to become more objective. Now, this important point is about our brain mechanisms. Those who followed this logic assumed the cognitive system was different than that for spoken languages. This gave rise to a new theory for current research from ASL from then on. What other theories could be used to compare and contrast the processing of speech and sign? One theory hinged on Stokes' assertion that signs included internal components. Using that theory enabled researchers to explore whether signers use parts of signs for producing and perceiving signs. As researchers made plans to study this, they did not have to establish new methods for gathering information. Researchers had already done similar studies on spoken language processing, so several conventional methods already existed, like elicitation. Researchers tried the same methods for sign language and found that they worked, including elicitation, among others, which I'll go over. First is error data from word recall tasks. In these studies, participants are asked to memorize a word list and later recall those words. Then their errors are analyzed. Spontaneous slips in articulation are another way that people make mistakes while talking and with signing when interacting. These types of mistakes can also be collected and analyzed. Next are judgments on well-formedness. Now, you can use those errors, some of which you may have never seen before, to make a new word list, or borrow signs from another sign language which are not the same as the participant's signs. Participants are asked whether they think the sign or word is acceptable, the goal being to see their judgment.